Well, Drew, absolutely stunning. 66 Lamborghini 350 GT, right?
Indeed, yes.
Wow. You know, I don't know that I've ever seen one quite like this. Is this an early one?
Very early in the production. Fellow enthusiasts believe because the numbering system early on was a little cattywampus.
Gee, Italian, what are the odds?
A couple of bottles of wine, let's build some cars. But it is a very early car, indicative mostly of the interior. The engine turn on the steering wheel and the gauge pod indicate it's a very early car. But the 350s also have some unique elements to them. The headlights have one large sort of seal beam made by CB. The later cars, bringing cars into the U.S., of course, had to have two sort of seal beams, a little more problematic design. So the early cars are a little cleaner, a little prettier. Every time you look at this car from a different angle, you sort of see something different. But it's very indicative of Touring that did the coach work on the car. Touring out of Torino, Italy, as you know, did everything from Aston Martins to Alfa Romeos, a few Ferraris, and also was commissioned for the very first incarnation of Lamborghini. So this was Ferricio's Lamborghini's first car.
And you can see some of those. You can see some of the things that you saw in Ferrari and some in Aston Martin stuff. But this is distinctly Lamborghini, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. One of the most unique design elements, which was very, very avant-garde at the time, is that every piece of glass on the car has compound curves.
Well,
there is no flat glass on the car anywhere.
This back window, to me, that's the car almost. I mean, that's just, and you're right about all the curves in that. I mean, I can't imagine replacing that. I mean, that would be quite a tricky cast, I would think.
Yeah, it's sort of a big fishbowl rear.
It really displays the interior, which is stunning. I mean, the whole thing pops.
It does. It just kind of jumps back out at you.
Is it an aluminum car?
All aluminum car, so it's part of the Superleggera, which you see on the hood, part of the Touring. They actually patented that design of using aluminum coachwork over a very thin monoframe. But as you see, one of the other unique elements that's very prevalent here is the very thin A-pillar. So when you're inside the car, not only does the interior jump out when you're out, but the outside really comes in when you're inside the car.
But it's just such a gorgeous, very Italian interior. And I hadn't noticed until you pointed out the engine turn on the steering wheel. It's gorgeous.
Well, interestingly also, the dials, the printing is actually silk screened onto the glass.
Oh yeah.
Rather than having the numbers on the dials themselves.
It sets
so they
out
sit
in front. Oh, very three-dimensional.
Almost as if they're floating,
Yeah. It's just gorgeous.
Well, everything from the calligraphy on the ashtray to the little knobs and switches. One of my favorite design elements is actually the rear view mirror, as you see it come all the way down to there.
Oh yeah, with that arm.
And it's typical Italian coachwork. Everything's artwork on these Italian cars.
It's so very nice.
Well, a couple of the first cars out of the gate, actually the original design had a center seat in the back. So it was two seats here and one right in the center. Oh. And actually, if you remove this sort of package shelf here, the 350s still have that sort of kind of bowl in the back where that seat originally was. So that's kind of interesting also.
Well, I love the interior color with the black too. It's a camel or a tan, but it's actually got a little bit more yellow in it, almost seems.
A little bit, not quite as much of that kind of mustard color as Ferrari had, so it's a little bit different. It's a very comfortable touring car. We own several Ferraris as well, which we enjoy rallying, but this car is a wonderful touring car. The front glass is so large that you can see out very easily.
Yeah, it is massive,
very comfortable. Isn't it? Yeah, much larger car than many of the earlier Ferraris.
Now, these babies here, are they intakes for the brakes or?
Actually, these are cooling fans for the interior, and in the typical Italian style, of course, there has to be symmetry. So this one is actually functional. You can see the fan inside, but that one's merely an ornament.
Yeah, and again, to your point of the compound curves and everything, this windshield is fabulous.
It's a wonderful touring car. Josephine and I, we spend a lot of time rallying the car. We do bull runs with the Lamborghini Club. We drive places, and it's a wonderfully comfortable car. It's a big car, a lot of room. So it's a little bit different than the Ferraris of the same era.
And under the hood would, of course, be a V12, but what displacement?
It's 3.5 liters. Hence the 350 designation.
Yes.
But we were very fortunate. Bob Wallace, who was one of the original engineers and test drivers for Lamborghini, who built it. Actually, his signature's on the build sheet for the car originally.
Really?
Also helped us with the restoration. So he helped us restore the
built it the
engine.
First time and built it the second time.
Indeed. So it's a V12, wonderful in its sort of power band. Has wonderful torque at the low end and very smooth all the way up. Ferraris, as you know, sort of sing when you get only into the upper bands, but this really comes alive around that 6,500 RPM range. You've got 6 side draft Weber carburetors, of course, and 12 cylinders. So it's a wonderful piece of Italian engineering.
Absolutely. Close her back up. I just love the lines of this car. Now, have you been to this the Concours, Rocky Mountain Concours at Broadmoor before?
You know, we came last year as spectators, and it was just such a fabulous show. The setting here is wonderful, and so we had to come back this year. We're displaying both our Aston Martin DB6 and the Lamborghini 350.
Both nice additions. Drew, thanks for bringing them out.
Thank you, Dennis.
Beautiful cars.